Hi, and welcome to PG6S channel. Uh, I was watching a video earlier by the Firearms blog. If you haven't checked them out, they're probably worth a look. I never knew they had a channel. I don't know if it's recent or whatever. I usually don't look for new channels anymore. I pretty much have a few I watch, and that's what I watch. So every once in a while I'll find something to search and be like, oh, they're cool. But they were one of those rare instances. They're making a video on AKs, talking about their favorite variants and shit, and how they didn't like this or that, and it gave me an idea for this video. And it's basically, why has it taken 50 plus years for the AK to take off here in America? I mean, the first AKs that showed up here were probably captured from Vietnam. Maybe a little bit after that there were some legit imports, the Chinese and the Finnish Valmets, starting in like the 70s. But really, guns like this didn't become popular until the fall of the assault weapons ban. Maybe during the assault weapons ban, because not everyone could get a new AR with all the cool shit on it anymore, I guess. I don't know. But I'm going to explore some reasons why I think it took the AK a while to take hold in America. And there's basically like a cultural gap between us and this gun. We have the AR-15 so hardwired into us. Anything that's different, we automatically look at it as, well, that sucks. And the AK is a fine example of that. But that's not where the conversation starts. The conversation is going to start with Vietnam. The guys who were over there and encountered these had a certain viewpoint that they came out of that war with, and that's that, yeah, they work. They're great rifles, but they're fucking commie guns, and we hate those pieces of shit. That was the prevailing view of my grandfather's generation. He was a Vietnam veteran. And really, he didn't warm up to the AK, like I said, until the mid-2000s. I bought my first one, and we went out and shot the shit out of it. And between the cheap ammo and the fact that it shot the same round as the SKS, which he always loved because you could get an SKS for like 79 bucks back when he was first starting to buy a whole bunch of guns, like in the 70s or 80s. I don't really remember when, but he always liked the SKS because it was cheap. And I think that's pretty much it. Again, the view of most of his generation is, the AK is just, an overpriced SKS. I would highly disagree. But anyway, so we were dealing with a lot of that after Vietnam. And I would say it really took until my father's generation in the 80s to get over that shit. And I think movies like Red Dawn and shit, where we saw AKs in a positive light, helped. I think more and more imports coming into the country for cheaper and cheaper prices. I mean, at one point you could get a good Chinese AK for less than $200. That's incredible. And those certainly did help the proliferation of the AK in the United States. I heard some people say that, pictures of contractors in Iraq, that's what made the AK cool. Honestly, that didn't even factor into my experience. I didn't know what contractors in fucking Iraq had, and I don't think most of you did either. I think a combination of video games and movies changed my generation's viewpoint on the AK considerably. And then we started to get into guns, and when we started to get into guns, we wanted assault rifles, or the semi-automatic clones of them. And when you go and look for that, the first gun that you could afford was an AK. So as a result, many of us had an AK as one of the first guns that we had, probably. I think mine was like the third or fourth gun I got was an underfolding AK. And I basically came to that decision because I could afford it. It was a Wasser 10 underfolder, so they were fairly cheap. And I was looking for something that would be fun to shoot, cheap to shoot, and that was cool. And cool to me meant movies, pretty much. And I went fucking Red Dawn. Can't get much cooler than that. Wolverines, blah, blah, blah. So that made my decision pretty easy when I went to look at guns, and the ARs were like $1,000 back then for anything you'd want to have. And the AKs, like this one here, this is not a Wasser, but it's a Romanian kit build. But guns like this were around the $500 mark. They were half the price. So I think that was more the thing that did it than contractors in Iraq, to be honest. The community of people who knew that contractors in Iraq were carrying AKs, I think, was very small. What I think is really funny is I've seen Wasser 10s that are being re-imported right now, that are Iraq bringbacks, essentially. Companies came over here and bought up a bunch of fucking Wasser 10s to equip contractors with. They're like African contractors of some sort, and they were giving them shit rifles. It's kind of funny, I think. I think it's also kind of funny that it was easier to do that than buy full auto AKs in country. I don't know how that's possible, but okay. It's kind of strange. Okay, so now there's the whole East meets West, I don't know what to call it, understanding gap or something like that. We don't think like the Russians do, so when we look at this gun, we don't know how to use it, quite frankly, and we start bolting shit onto the gun that it doesn't need. Like the Krebs safety selector thing. Yeah, that's just a sign that you don't know how to run an AK, according to the Russians anyway. I don't know. I go back and forth on it myself, but I really don't like extra shit hanging off the gun. And the Russians, when they run an AK, when they carry it around, they hold it like this. Thumb goes on the safety, and when they go to use it, safety comes down, hand goes back. That's literally how it goes. AR users in the US will bitch that there's no safety over here to flip, because they're all used to running ARs and they won't fucking bother to learn how the gun was originally used. At least that's the way I see it. And this has led to a lot of people doing shit like this and trying to manipulate that long ass lever out of fucking notches with a pointer finger. It's not a good idea. I don't think that works very well at all. The Russian method works, at least. There's something else I was going to talk about too. I don't know. Oh, yes, I do remember now. An issue that I heard those guys on the firearms blog complain about that I've never had any experience with, honestly. I've been shooting AKs, like I said, since I first got into buying my own guns. Like the third or fourth gun I ever bought was an AK. The issue that they said was that it beats you up. And they're talking about full auto guns. Now, I've shot full auto AKs, and I've shot semi-auto AKs so fast that people thought they were full auto. In either of those cases, the recoil is not abusive. If you want abusive, I suggest you go shoot an HK91. That rifle's got some recoil in full auto. It's pretty bad. The AK is a pussycat. Of course, I'm like 6'5" and built like a linebacker, so you know, the guys in that video, the one that was saying in particular was really small. So maybe that's the deal. I don't know. I would love to hear from people in the comments. If do you think an AK kicks a lot? Because I really don't. It has recoil, and in some ways it has more recoil than like an AR. But it's because the AR's recoil is so linear. I mean, and it has a huge ass buffer to absorb a lot of recoil too. So this gun really doesn't have that. And just to answer another thing they said in that video, they're talking about how the AK is outdated in all of its forms. They were talking about how it's outdated. Now, in their defense, they were also claiming one of the best assault rifles ever made was the G36. Just FYI, the G36 is one of the worst fucking guns ever made. I would take a fucking Wasser 10 over a G36 any day of the week. That gun is all sorts of fucked up. I'm not going to go into it here, because it really doesn't matter. But that was the viewpoint they're coming from. They're like HK fans, and they view this as an old, outdated steel rifle. So, if you guys have any comments or questions about, you know, AKs becoming more and more popular in America, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I'd love to answer any questions you guys have. Maybe I skipped something. I just, you know, I think it's kind of odd that the AK in really 20 years has gone from being the commie gun to being America's #2 rifle. I mean, it's these and the AR-15. The AR-15 beats this gun out for sure, but not by much. And the accessories market is getting pretty cool on these. I mean, this thing's pretty tricked out. So, be sure to thumbs up, subscribe, and do all the rest of that bullshit, and I'll see you guys later.